Manuel Noriega was the dictator of Panama between 1983 and 1989. His right-hand man was Carlos Wickreen. I got a call from Jose Goldner in Panama and said, hey, do you want to come down to Panama to live with Carlos Wickreen and to interview him about his time in the regime with Noriega? When I came down to Panama, I also uncovered several hundred CIA, DEA, and DOJ documents that back up Carlos' story and tell the true narrative of what really happened with the rise, rule, and fall of Noriega and his relationship with the CIA and the United States.
How exactly does that unfold?
I get a call from my buddy Jack Moran, who lives down in Panama. His business partner is this guy, Jose Goldner. Jose's in his 50s, and he sort of grew up in a diplomat family. So would you be interested in speaking to Jose about this book sort of surrounding Noriega and Iran-Contra? And I said, yeah, dude,
Was it a book that he'd already written or one that he was working on?
He had access to the people that...
Okay.
So he had access to all of these people that have never spoken before, right? Because people there are very tight-lipped. And so I get on the phone with this guy. I'm in the pool house in Los Angeles. This is the story. This is the guy. His name is Carlos Wickreen. He was Noriega's right-hand man. Would you be interested in coming down to Panama to meet him and then, if he likes you, to write his book? So I said, yeah. And then I got on a plane to Panama like a few days later. Never been before, barely speak Spanish. Show up at Jose's apartment. He basically says, okay, starting tomorrow, we're going to meet Carlos. If he likes you, you'll be here for quite a while writing his book. You cool with that? And I was like, sure, whatever. I meet Carlos the next day at like an Italian restaurant, and him and Jose are speaking in Spanish for like 20 minutes. Carlos is cracking jokes. He sort of breaks into English a little bit. He's like speaking Spanglish. And then Jose says, hey, Carlos, Cillian is interested in writing your story. He's a young Irish writer. He's written 4 books. I think he could do a great job. So Carlos turns to me and he sort of like scans me up and down. He can switch between being like super friendly and like the nicest guy you'll ever meet to like having these really sharp eyes that really are penetrating you. Like they're assessing every single little part of your body, because this guy was a triple spy, right? He was trained to do this. So looks me up and down, and he's
I was gonna say straight sociopath.
Oh,
like
dude.
That's sociopath behavior. Like I could be the nicest fucking guy, and then in a second, whatever you need to be at that moment, right?
Well, you got to be to commit the sort of atrocities that this guy committed on behalf of Noriega,
and
but
still sleep at night.
Still sleep at night. I told Danny that it was like compartmentalization. Like he was able to compartmentalize a lot of this stuff. But anyway, scans me up and down, says to me in English. He goes, "You will do a good job." And then I was like, yes, I will do a good job.
Or
my
else.
life depends on it.
Or else, sort of feeling.
Yeah. So he basically, he goes home. I go back to Jose's apartment. We make plans to. Jose has a bunch of different properties in Panama, in rural Panama. So myself, a translator named Diego, Carlos, and Carlos's Colombian girlfriend, all hop in a pickup truck. We drive like 7 hours into the middle of nowhere in Panama at this beach house with like no little Wi-Fi and no service and all this sort of stuff. I was terrified.
I was gonna say, people know where you're at though, right? You have let people know. Like mom knows.
Kinda. I mean,
who I'm meeting. Yeah.
They kind of.
There's
know.
at least a digital trail.
Totally, there is some sort of a digital trail.
Right.
I mean, but like no service. Like even if I shared my location with family and friends, like they wouldn't be able to tell where I was.
Right.
I just told them the name of some little town in Panama, and like you can barely even look it up. Right. Anyway, I wasn't like terribly worried. I was actually really excited. So I started just in my free time, just doing loads of different, exercises, sort of like reading books, and then having myself like sort of recount these stories about Noriega. And I wanted to be prepared for these interviews. I really was like a blank slate. Like I didn't know that much about Noriega or Carlos or anything like that. But these interviews start in this rural beach house. I've got this little voice recorder I bought on Amazon for like $40, and he starts sort of divulging everything to me. The translator is sort of there if I need him, so I don't speak Spanish that well. I can pick up a little bit on conversation, but he's telling me his life story basically, and then I would stop him and ask Diego sort of what he was saying.
Yeah.
And then Diego would relay it to me, and then I would be able to prepare questions based on that. So we started out like a funnel like this.
Yeah.
It was very wide, like his childhood, like all that sort of really boring shit that nobody really cares about, but like he cares about. Yeah,
right. Trust me, I know.
He cares about it the most, right? And because he saw this book as his legacy. Mm-hmm. He really wanted to tell his story. He was in his early 80s, like very much so on his deathbed, and even though he was still quite strong and very like fiery and like full of life. But we start with the funnel, and then as time progresses, we start to get into the more controversial information. He starts to get testier and testier. He, he doesn't love when you bring up like narco trafficking or like weapons trafficking, anything like that. And especially if you bring up anything bad that Noriega did, which there's a lot of stuff there, his entire mood would shift, right? And he would like completely deflect all of that stuff.
I mean, is he trying to like it didn't happen, or it's a lie, or he doesn't want to focus on it?
A lie, right? So I knew he was lying to me a lot, right? And I could pick that up. Even though I was a blank slate, I already did a lot of research and reading during this time, right? Yeah. Still early days. This was going to be a really long-term thing. I'm there for a few weeks in this rural beach house, and then we get news that the country has broken out into civil unrest. So the Panamanian government, it was sort of released that they had accepted this like major bribe from this huge mining excavation company that essentially would allow this company to like excavate all of this land in Panama and like would destroy like natural wildlife and that sort of stuff. Basically just like gringos coming into Panama fucking up the country, right. And people were really pissed. So the country completely stops. People take to the highways, and all supply chain and travel ceases. So gas stations had no gas, grocery stores had no groceries. It was a mess. The U.S. Embassy is telling U.S. citizens to get the hell out of there. And I'm a U.S. citizen. I'm a dual citizen. I was born in the U.S., so I listened to them, right? And but Carlos and I and Diego and Carlos's Colombian girlfriend were all 7 hours from Panama City, from the airport. And so we have to flee in the middle of the night. And we have to leave the beach house at like 11 p.m., travel down this like really long dirt road. As soon as we get onto the main road, it's clogged up by like all of these protesters in the middle of the night. So we sort of just have to wait there. Carlos is telling me that, this is normal for Panama. He's like, protests like these happen all the time. Civil unrest is extremely common, and it usually trickles down from like the United States, right? Or like in this case it was Canada. But usually it's like a world superpower that's taking advantage of like this, what's essentially a third world country. So we break through these like hordes of protesters and we make it back to the city miraculously. And then I go to a hotel, camp out in my hotel for like 3 days because I couldn't get a flight for like 3 days. I'm there watching the streets below from like the 17th floor, and there were like people in balaclavas like shooting fireworks into the sky. There were people shooting guns. There are these massive like school buses covered in LED lights, like blasting Panamanian music. And it just like didn't stop, I think, for like 7 weeks, right? I managed to get out of there. I was able to go to the airport at like 3 a.m. and like camp out at the airport till, I forget when my flight was, like 1 or 2 p.m. It was miserable. But then I go back to the States. I go back to the pool house in Los Angeles, and I just start writing the book. And I don't go back to Panama for a few months. But I'm there writing the book. I'm drafting it up. I sort of have my own space. I'm getting like, the way when you start writing a book, you have like your first draft, and it's like a skeleton draft, and it just doesn't feel right. And that things are missing like here and there. The gut feeling that I got when I finished my first draft was like, this reads like exactly the way he would want me to write it.
Right.
It's like Noriega was my best friend. Like, he was this guy who like was totally taken advantage of, and there's a lot of merit to that, but like he didn't talk about like anything like illicit or anything like really terrible.
Right.
So I start going out on my own to interview all these people. I interview this journalist, this guy Richard Koster. He's based out of Panama, but he's an American guy. He used to be a journalist for Newsweek, based out of Washington, D.C. He's like arguably the most knowledgeable American journalist in Central America. He just knows everything. And he was there for the Noriega regime and actively reported on it. So he and I meet. He tells me his side of things, and I tell him about the book. And he basically tells me, he's like, listen, this entire subject that you're covering, Panama, Noriega, Iran-Contra, it's something that a lot of people know a little about, but nobody knows everything. He said that what sort of exists here are people with different realities. So Carlos's reality during this time is much different to like an American soldier who was sent to Panama during the invasion, right? They knew that they were there to oust a dictator, whereas Carlos's story, sort of his reason for existing, was to aid Noriega in rising through the ranks and becoming like the leader that Panama needed, somebody who put Panamanian interests first. Right, which is a tale as old as time. Like, you hear about dictators and their regimes rising up through the dust, it's like they start talking about like self-sufficiency. They talk about like nationalism, like, you know, independence in sort of every regard, like putting your country first. And that's exactly what Noriega wanted to do, but that went against U.S. interests.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say I don't see a problem with that at all.
No.
But except for
all the bad shit that he did, right?
Yeah. Except for sometimes you have to behead some people. Some people need killing. They're in the way, and there's no way to deal with it. And you don't want them hanging out talking bad about you.
Totally.
You know. And what was it? Oh my gosh. I was gonna say, I hate to say Hitler, but let's say Machiavelli. Was it the big lie concept?
Right.
You tell a big lie loud enough and long enough, and when you seize power, nobody will ever ask you if the lie was true or not. Right. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like once you get there, if you can wipe everybody out, and nobody's going to question you.
Yeah.
But that's how most guys end up seizing power, right? Like a strong man, and he was definitely a strong man.
Total military strong man, and I'll sort of jump into that history a bit. Like he was hand selected by the CIA in the 1950s from his military school. It was called the Chorrillos Military School in Peru, and he was like hand selected. It was there he met this guy Richard Helms, who ultimately became the director of the CIA in the early 1970s. He was the director of the CIA like during Watergate, but him and Noriega were like boys, like they were very good friends. And Noriega made it a point to become good friends with all of the directors of the CIA. He did them like favors, and if they needed, I like to say like if
he endeared himself to them.
Yeah, if the U.S.
wants to be needed.
Exactly. If the U.S. needed their trash taken out in Latin America, they called Noriega. Right. If they had problems with Fidel Castro, they called Noriega to figure it out. He did them a lot of favors. But the first sign of sort of things going to shit were in 1976, 1977, when H.W. Bush was director of the CIA, and those two like really butted heads. Like H.W. hated Noriega, and Noriega hated him, and that was when things like really started to go to shit. So I'm learning all this right after I interviewed Carlos for the first time in the beach house, and I know I'm going back to Panama again, and this time I'm going to be living with Carlos in his apartment in the city.
Is there a reason that Bush is there a specific reason why, or just people said they didn't like each other?
I can tell you what. So Noriega had like a massive ego, right? A huge,
right?
Of course, massive ego, and
humble people don't get there.
No, hell no. Yeah, dude, no. And he was the chief of intelligence of Panama at the time. There was another dictator before Noriega called Omar Torrijos. He was like a socialist dictator. So the US didn't really like him. The CIA didn't really want him in power. Mm-hmm. But so a lot of the communication went directly to Noriega, not to the dictator. And Noriega claims, I read his memoirs and I watched a bunch of interviews, and Noriega claims that Bush was like pro-Panama. So Noriega was saying that Bush wanted Panama to have independence and to own the Panama Canal, where at the time the United States owned the Panama Canal, the country's greatest resource, right? Yeah. It just generated so much money that, why would the US want to give that up?
Yeah, that doesn't seem...
But they did. Jimmy Carter gave it up in 1977, right? And now obviously Trump it's in the news a lot. He wants to take it back, and because China bought up the ports and now BlackRock owned the ports. It's very complex, and I don't understand the economics behind it fully. But in 1976...
Well, I think he probably just doesn't want China to have a hold in Central America.
Totally.
You know what I'm saying? It's probably...
And there's a lot of merit to that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Danny and I spoke about that too, about how it's sort of like, I used a bad word. I said infection, but it's it really is it's called the Belt and Road Initiative. They're trying to buy everything up.
Of course. Yeah, you don't want China, being buddies with Canada, and suddenly there's 6 bases in Canada, and people are like, oh, it's none of your business. The fuck, it's not.
Yeah, it's legit. You know, people can say what they want, but it's a legit worry, and the Panama Canal is just so important.
It's the same problem that Russia has with the old, Soviet bloc states, where it's like, hey, we're going to put American bases or NATO, whatever in here. And of course, Russia's like, no.
Yeah.
So you can kind of understand. It's kind of like you feel like, fuck you. Yeah, that's none of your business. But when it's us, it's our bit. And now it's important.
Yeah.
Now it means something.
Totally. And people can say what they want. It sort of falls under this thing, the national security doctrine, which is which basically just means the U.S. wants to put national security first. That's what's important, right?
Yeah, I think that's okay for anybody. They all should.
Every country should do that, right? Yeah. And that's part of the reason why sort of like Noriega and Omar Torrijos, they really gained a lot of steam, right? They got a lot of power. But in 1976, Noriega claims that HW was pro-Panama, doesn't really make that much sense, right? It's very much a lie, I think.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, it still doesn't make sense. He should be, they're both pro-Panama. Why aren't we buddies?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But then, he claims that the CIA sort of sabotaged the Panama Canal to speed up the negotiations between Omar Torrijos and Jimmy Carter so that the Panama Canal would go back into Panamanian hands, right? One of those accelerations was Noriega claims that the CIA planted bombs in the Panama Canal, and like when the bombs went off, the claim was like, oh, if Panama owned the canal, we could make sure that this doesn't happen. Like we could watch it more closely. It's kind of bullshit, right? Yeah. It doesn't really make sense. But this is what he says. Behind closed doors, I do know that things got really fiery, right? CIA, HW was asking a lot of favors of Noriega, and Noriega is starting to sort of toy with them a little bit, being like, I'll do this, but you got to give me this.
Right.
There's a lot of Noriega was on CIA payroll for a very long time, but there's a lot of stories of him sort of taking these getting these black bags filled with cash and, having them delivered to his office. And people say that he made millions upon millions from the CIA through like backdoor dealings. Mm-hmm. So there was definitely a lot of shady shit going on there, and
I spent a lot of time with guys that thought they could cut corners and get away with it. But when it comes to food, you don't want to cut corners, especially around the holidays. I like to have high quality food on hand, something I can throw on the grill or make when friends drop by. That's why I keep Omaha steaks in the freezer. In fact, my wife and I had the filet mignon the other day, and it was amazing. We also had a dessert that they sent, and it was, I'm going to say apple fritters or some kind of they were like little apple pie things, and they were great. Omaha Steaks has it all. Steaks, burgers, chicken, pork, seafood, even desserts. Every bite is backed by their 100% guarantee, and you can taste the difference. Get fired up for grilling with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their Red Hot sales event. And for an extra $35 off, use promo code INSIDE at checkout. That's 50% off omahasteaks.com and an extra $35 off with promo code INSIDE at checkout.
At the time, or like a couple years later, the movie American Made? Like, yeah, of course. So that's starting to go on toward like the late 70s, like early 1980s. Noriega is very much like a middleman.
Listen, I'm so old. I watched on HBO. I watched the Double Cross with Hopper with I forget his name. It was the original.
No, I haven't.
Are you serious?
No,
it
was Dennis Hopper.
Dennis Hopper played Barry Seal.
No way.
In the original one, where he's getting and they actually have a huge scene where Noriega shows up, and that the cameras are there, and he's pushing the button, and it's making the. He was so loud. He's like, "You're trying to get me killed." It was like, so he revved up the engines, and he was trying to get Noriega. He's like, "Why don't you fly with me, and we'll go back?" Like he's trying to bring him with him to the United States.
Holy shit!
Yeah, come on, we'll go to Miami. He's like, no. To hold the photographs and everything. There's all these photographs. I can't believe. Yeah, this was back in like the 80s.
No way.
And I saw it on HBO, sitting in my parents' living room. So I've known about this. Keep in mind, I've known the whole time.
Right. Oh yeah, and it's funny. Obviously, I
think it was in high school when they invaded.
Yeah. 1989 was the invasion.
89. No, what about? I graduated in 88. So yeah.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, right
Close.
before.
Yeah.
But obviously, I wasn't even alive when this stuff happened. I that's why I call myself like a blank slate coming in.
These people.
Yeah, I didn't know any of this shit. But the the Barry Seal stuff and all of those like CIA drugs, narco trafficking pilots.
Do you feel that's accurate?
I was told that it's not fully accurate.
Yeah, well,
by guys in Panama. But that being said, like everything is sort of just testimonials, right? At this point, everything is testimonials. Everyone's just telling me their story. I don't have these documents yet. The documents that I unearthed, these classified documents, or I guess now previously classified documents, they I didn't know they existed. So I write this first skeleton draft of the book. I know that I have to go back to Panama to live with Carlos for I'm only going for 2 weeks. So I fly back. Carlos picks me up at the airport. This time he's a little bit more intense, right? This time he's like, all right, strap in. Like, we're in for it for the next 2 weeks. So he picks me up, takes me to his apartment, and we immediately just start drinking. Immediately breaks out a bottle of this thing called Secco. I actually don't really know what it's made with, but it's like it's kind of like vodka. It's like a clear liquor. Start drinking at like 9 a.m, drinking all day. He's bringing all these friends and family over to the house. He's getting really emotional, telling a story. And then I sort of start to contest him a little bit. I'm like, you told me this the last time, but now you're telling me this. So I was like, what is like the truth here? Like, what are you trying to say? And, he starts to get a little bit more bold as well. He starts cracking jokes about like kidnapping me, keeping me there in Panama, stuff like that. I'm freaking out. But I sort of just like pull up my socks and I'm like, all right, as long as I stay cool and like, keep my head on straight, like everything's going to be fine. So I do just that. Every day that I'm there, things lighten up a little bit. I call Jose and I call a few guys and I'm like, hey, Carlos isn't letting me leave the apartment because he didn't let me leave. He didn't let me leave his site, right? I couldn't even go for walks. Like one day I wanted to go for a walk along the this thing called the Cinta Costera in Panama City. It's like this beautiful walkway, like right on the water. He had his Colombian girlfriend like go with me and like trail me. Like right. I wasn't allowed to go myself. And so I call Jose and I'm like, what's up with this? Like, am I good? Am I safe? And he's like, yeah. He's like, what he's doing is he wants to see how you live and he wants to watch you 24/7 to see if he can trust you. Right? He wants to look at my mannerisms. He wants to, he wants to see how the enemy sleeps. Right? And so I do a good job. I'm cool. I start to, mesh in. I'm trying to speak more Spanish. I'm like actively only trying to speak Spanish, like trying to win him over. Every day he starts introducing me to new people. All these former regime generals of Noriega are coming over to the apartment. We're all having breakfast. Zero trust from me. Some of them won't even look me in the eyes because I'm a gringo. And then this one guy comes over. His name was Jose Hilario Trujillo. He used to be the mayor of Panama City, but he was in the Air Force under Noriega. And in like 1988, I think he was pretty close with Noriega. He wasn't like the top Air Force guy. That was this dude, Lorenzo Purcell, who I met, I think his son or maybe his nephew, something like that. But I met the people that were still alive that could tell the story. Trujillo comes over with this big black briefcase. He slams it down on the table, doesn't say hi, opens it up and pulls out like hundreds of these CIA, DEA, and Department of Justice documents. And he slams them down. He's like, look, mira, like, look. So I'm looking through them. I'm like, holy shit, like this tells sort of the entire story from 1971 all the way up until like 1987, right? It fills in all these blanks. And what it filled in was like, what exactly were the US government, the DEA and CIA asking Noriega to do? Like, what exactly was he doing for the US government? Right. These documents it's the paper trail. It just proves exactly what he was doing. All of the illicit stuff like the narco trafficking and like racketeering and money laundering, like benefiting from that stuff behind closed doors, documentation doesn't exist about that, right? Like if it did, it's been shredded for decades.
But you're saying this was that documented, that this does prove that, or it's missing?
So the money laundering stuff is missing, but what this does prove is that Noriega was like a true ally for the US government for so long, right? And he curbed like the narco trade from Escobar and the Ochoas, like Colombia, for so long that the narrative that the Americans tell, or the narrative that currently exists, is that like this guy like used to help us out. He was an asset in Central America, and then he went rogue. Mm-hmm. What they don't really say is that like they propped him up, used him, like milked this guy dry, and then like discarded him when he sort of like started to revolt and when he started to act upon like his own interests and his own nation's interests. That being said, it's very complex because like the people of Panama also hate Noriega, right? He was brutal to the people at the lowest levels. The wealth disparity in the country was awful. I like to call it a third world country with a golden crown, right? Because the golden crown was like, the banking system. Like, are you familiar with the sort of like the reason why the banking system exists there?
I mean, for banking, I'm assuming?
It started... Right. They call it like the Switzerland of the Americas because a lot of people like money launder.
I was gonna say, yeah. Money laundering. I know that there was that law firm that was in Panama that got busted, and they showed all these Americans and American companies that had laundered money. Well, and everybody really, Russians, like tons of people in Europe, tons of people in South, like they were all using it. But I also know that at one point, Noriega went in and nationalized the banks and just took all the money, right? Like
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that happened he became dictator in 1983, and then he passed a law called Law 83, which did just that. Like they put more regulations on it. I say that because like it was still like a total money laundering hub.
Like gave them the ability to seize money with ease, right? Without really process.
He just took control of the country, right? He took control of everything. So I'm learning all this stuff anyway through these documents about Noriega's relationship with the US, DEA, all that sort of stuff. And Trujillo, speaks in Spanish, doesn't speak in English, says all this stuff to Carlos. Carlos turns to me. He's like, yeah, you can speak to Trujillo if you want. So then Trujillo leaves. Carlos and I spend like the next week and a half at that point, sort of interviewing all these other people. I've got a lot more detail for the book. During that time, I also make use of getting these contacts from Jose and these other guys who can also put me in touch with Americans too. Because at this point, I was really getting mostly Panamanian stories and some journalists and stuff like that. But I get put in touch with U.S. soldiers during the invasion. I met this one guy who he is sort of like a tinfoil hat kind of guy now, but he was a CIA operative and he lives in the woods in the rainforest in Panama, and he covers his house in aluminum foil so that the satellites can't see him.
Oh my God.
He's one of these guys, but so interesting, dude. I'm asking him all this stuff, and he's like, well, did you know that like this like special task force existed and like did this behind the scenes? And I couldn't, like, there's no documentation to prove anything this guy says, so I can't put that much of it in the book.
Yeah.
But there are people like that exist in Panama, like these sort of like guys with extreme PTSD from sort of being involved in this whole thing.
It's funny. I would meet these guys in prison where you could talk to them for 6 months and they were completely normal and you had great conversations. And then one day a certain topic would come up and they'd start talking and you realize like, oh, you're batshit crazy. Like, I had no idea. You're insane. Like, you were totally, I've been hanging out with you for 6 months. You've been great. And now I realize you're a fucking lunatic. So,
Dude.
yeah. It's funny because you would think, oh, no, that guy, someone that insane, you wouldn't be able to have a conversation with. No, you can have complete conversations on, and there's one or two topics that they're just nuts.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you start picking up on the fact that they're like standing in the shadows and stuff, and you're like, "What's going on?" They're like, "Well, it's the satellites."
Yeah.
What's that, bro? They're tracking me, and you're like, "Oh shit!" Like,
it's
fucking insane. Dude. Like, he's totally normal yesterday. Dude, So I mean, I know what you're saying. Like, you can have a conversation, and you want to give validity to what they're saying, even when it's the insanity, because you're thinking, no, he's normal, so there must be some validity to this, and then you can't really trust it.
No, of course not. I think like you gotta like use your best judgment, right? With guys like that.
Yeah, if you can tie it into something to an accurate part of it, then maybe it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, because this guy was, we started talking about like Panama and Noriega and all this stuff, and then somehow we ended up in Egypt and how the aliens built the pyramids and how we, So he was one of those kind of guys, right? He just like broken record. I assume every single time he meets someone new, he has the exact same conversation.
You had me till Egypt.
Yeah, dude, I know, right? He was so compelling right up until he started talking about aliens. But anyway, like those 2 weeks fly by. I have a super strong sort of understanding of what Carlos is telling me, and then also the narrative that has not been told like through these documents. But I don't own the documents yet. So I go back to the US. I write several more.
Do you have to own them? I don't.
So in order to publish them in my book, I need permission from the guy who owns them, which is Trujillo. So
and how did he come across?
Noriega gave them to him.
Okay, so so he does own them. Okay,
he owns them. Yeah, and they're like one of
because they were sent to Noriega, so he has ownership, and then he assigned them or gave them to the other guy. Now he owns them, and he can give them to somebody else. Okay,
totally.
As opposed to being stolen.
Yeah, and they weren't stolen because they were addressed to Noriega. They were sent to Noriega.
Perfect.
So what Noriega did actually was he kept them in this little like black binder in the late 80s. I know this because 60 Minutes did an interview with Noriega in like 87 or 88, and it must have been 87 because he hadn't been indicted yet. But 87, 88, and Noriega on camera, they're in his office. He opens up this black binder. He's like, look at all these letters. Like, look at all the gratitude that America gives me. He's like, I'm not an enemy of the United States. these documents are saying that I'm a friend, I'm an ally, they need me. And they do. I've got a bunch of them. I've got like hundreds of them that they say the same thing. Like, without you, we would not be able to curb narco trafficking in Latin America. He really was like the most important guy.
I'm sure they were sure the United States was thrilled that they sent him those.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Oh my God.
It really played into George Bush's hand, right? They were like, fuck.
Yeah. They must have been pissed, especially at this point when Noriega was like actively working against U.S. interests, right? But Noriega, I think to me, it was obvious that he wanted to use them as collateral. And then when the invasion happened and he was extracted by the U.S. military and brought to Florida to stand trial, he actually wasn't allowed to use those in his defense.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So the trial was unjust, right? It was kind of a BS trial. But anyways, those documents existed, and then he was able to pass those on to Trujillo, who started to, in many ways, become a historian. Like, he feels very strongly about sort of what happened in Panama, and he has always wanted to, like, tell the true story. Like, he's written books in Spanish about like Noriega's relationship with HW and like even the history of Panama going all the way back to their independence in 1903, where the U.S. government like essentially helped them get independence from Colombia with the intention of like digging out the canal so that the U.S. could.
Yeah, they wanted to complete the canal that was started by the French, right?
Totally.
The French had abandoned it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And so anyway.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't know if Colby knows. Probably only because of this interview.
I'll probably tell you no. I don't know.
You know what the Panama Canal is, right?
I know it's a canal. You probably take ships through it, you know.
Okay. You know why it was built, right?
Trade, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, that way they don't have to go all the way around. Like, it's much, much quicker. Yeah. And it's not completely a canal. It's part of it's canal, part of it's a connection of like man-made lakes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they
you
kind
can
of have
fish
like
there and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So they have like a lake that they made. So sometimes the ship it opens a canal. But do you know why they have the canal?
To save time.
No, but it's also a series of, what do they call them? Levees?
I think,
what do they call them?
levees. I think so. Oh, no, maybe not. But I know what you're talking, where they shift.
Yeah, because why not just dig a ditch all the way through? Why do they have these stops?
Where they have to raise the water level.
Right, because the Earth and and because of gravity, and the Earth is not, of course, a complete circle. It's really more like an egg. And because of gravity, if they cut it, there'd be massive flooding. The water from like the Pacific would flow into the Gulf, or maybe it's the other way around. I don't know. But I mean, it would literally like raise like several feet on one side of the North American continent, probably, maybe all over the world. I don't know, you know, and then we'd wobble. No, I'm just joking. I don't know about the wobble, but whatever. Like, so they literally, the boats go in, they raise they have like a blockage, and then they pump in water to raise the boat up. Then it goes into another levee. They raise it up some more. They goes into another levee. They raise it up till they equalize the water line, and then it can go on into the Gulf or go into, I don't know if it's the Gulf at that point, but they can go into the Pacific Ocean. Like, it's super. It's the making of it is like it's like a marvel. Like, it's amazing. And it took forever it took an entire multiple countries to go in and dig and build this fucking thing, because it's so, I'm going to say it's complicated. It's not that complicated, but it's a massive undertaking.
Oh, yeah.
And they pay. It's big money to go through the levee, because it saves tons of time and resources, fuel, to get all the way around. So it's like, hey, it's worth it to pay these guys. And they make a ton of money. Like Panama, whoever's in control of it and running it, they make good money running this fucking thing.
Yeah.
It's not like they're breaking even.
No, it's something like 7 to 10% of the world's trade passes through the Panama Canal. Something like that.
You know what I mean?
Crazy money. Yeah. It's a lot of money, and that's part of the reason why Trump was so vocal about it, because when the Chinese owned the ports on either side, they essentially could control what passes through to a certain degree. So, and in the Canal Treaty of 1977, which passed the canal into Panamanians' hands, one of the sort of stipulations was that if there was ever a threat to the United States and threat to the Panama Canal, the U.S. could come back and take ownership.
Okay.
And put U.S. troops back on Panama land.
Yeah, we'll hand it over, but if it gets bad, then you have to understand we have the right to come in under military law to take it.
Totally. Yeah.
Or run it.
Whatever. And the argument was that the Chinese like are a threat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's sort of why there is validity to it. You know.
No, that's super valid. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah. Anyway, so I've got this really strong piece of material. I know these documents exist. We send out the book through Jose. We send out the book to sort of historians, people who were regular civilians who were alive during the time, and then also some other like military regime generals under Noriega to fact check it. They all read.
So you've already written the book.
I've already written the book. Yep.
Are you trying, when you're saying fact check it, are you trying to get additional interviews or just fact check?
Fact check. Okay. Yeah. So at this point, and I'm leaving some details out here because I interviewed a crap load of people to build this book. Like most of it is Carlos. 2/3 of the book is written from Carlos' perspective. 1/3 is written from my perspective. Like hunting down these documents, going to Panama, like meeting all these people, and I talk about.
Yeah, because that's a story in and of itself is the actual investigative journalism. Whenever I write stuff, I like to do that.
Yeah,
because sometimes it explains the seriousness of it or how you got this information, and I think it lends to the overall story anyway.
Yep.
Plus, I get to talk about myself, which is huge because I love that.
Yeah, and originally I didn't even want to do that. I didn't even want to do that originally.
But otherwise, how do you figure out, if you don't do that, then how do you explain to the reader how this came together?
Yep.
Like, why do I have this and nobody else does?
Yep.
So
yeah, because I put Carlos's story in, like what he told me word for word. But in my chapters where like I'm the protagonist, I'm like, this is what Carlos told me, but I don't believe it.
Yeah.
This is what I believe, and this is why. And the reason why is because I interviewed these people, and this is what they told me. So I tried to make it like as balanced as possible. Because Carlos' story, like, don't get me wrong, like it is poetic, it's rich, it's an awesome story. Like it's an awesome story. It would make like an unbelievable movie. Mm-hmm. But, you know, there's bullshit in there. You know, and I don't want someone to pick up my book and think, oh, this kid was taken advantage of.
Yeah, he just co-signed on this guy who's trying to sugarcoat
I don't want to be that kind of investigative writer. I don't want to be that kind of writer. I want to be an investigative writer. I need to, you know, dig in that dirt and get my hands dirty. So that's exactly what I did. But essentially we get word from all these people. They're like, hey, you know, story's good, but you can't prove any of this stuff. So
you have the stuff though.
But the stuff is there. So then we develop a plan for me to come back to Panama and sit down and have these negotiations with Trujillo to hand over the documents and to allow us to publish them in our book, right? So he's open to the idea. I think he started seeing green. You know, he saw the money, truthfully. And so I fly to Panama there for a couple of weeks with the most ragtag group of people. Like I was there with a couple Americans, a guy who like lived in the rainforest. This guy Cindo literally lived in the rainforest and like hunted for his food. He kind of worked for Jose, and he was in the city because Jose had promised him for all his hard work that he would send him to a brothel. So we had this American guy come up called Dutch to take Cindo to a brothel. Right. He just so happened to be there for all the negotiations. Right, this guy with like no teeth, like lived in the woods, like it was crazy.
But he's got his priorities right. So let's not forget that.
Why worry about you know, retirement when you can just bang hookers in the city and then go back to the rainforest? You know, this guy really was like of retirement age, but like that's just what he wanted to do.
Right.
And so anyway, we have this real ragtag group of people. We meet with Trujillo and Trujillo's basically like, I'm open to this, but you got to deal with my son if you want these documents. And we're like, okay. Why? And Jose explains that in Panama, when you reach a certain age, your children do all your business for you, all your negotiating for you.
Okay.
So this guy Trujillo's kid, essentially owns like a brothel, right?
So you're telling me that at some point when I get old enough, that Mary Shelley is going to be doing my taking care of my bank account?
If that's what you want?
Absolutely not. Absolutely. I'll just deal with it.
Yeah. If you lived in Panama, that would be your reality.
Well, we're staying in the U.S. Yeah. So go ahead. Sorry.
But we go to what's essentially a brothel. It's a bar, but it's the only other patrons in there are hookers just trying to pick up like Americans to take them back to their hotel and make $100, right? And we are taken into this back room, this real ragtag group of people. Trujillo's kid comes in. The wallpaper is like this, like Miami 80s, like Miami Vice Scarface type, like really tacky wallpaper. Mm-hmm. The guy sits down and he tries to sort of bully us a little bit. He's like, "What are you going to give me for my dad's documents?" And he sort of starts acting like that. Jose is an extremely strong negotiator, strong arms the shit out of him, right? Just strong arms the shit out of him, just like really puts him in his place. And the guy's like, okay, yeah, okay, for like this percentage of the book's profits, like I'll do it. And I was like, okay, I can give up that much for these documents, for all the proof that I need to make this credible. So go back and forth with this guy.
People think that books make tons of money.
No.
They just don't. You know, the disparity between being a best-selling author and being just a regular author is just massive. Like, and you could be a best-selling author for 2 years in a row, and the next year you're sleeping in your car.
Yeah.
If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above. That's where GhostBed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, GhostBed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every Ghost Bed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your Ghost Bed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a Ghost Bed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which Ghost Bed is right for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation.
Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use code Cox at the checkout. Journalists just don't make any money. Books just don't make any money.
Yeah.
It fucking sucks.
Yeah, dude, it's rough, but it's like, for me, it's like fulfilling. I'm sure when you've
of
been
course
writing for so long.
Oh, when you're finished,
Yeah.
it's a great feeling. It's amazing. The problem is it's just completely underappreciated, thankless work.
Yeah.
And it just grinds you down.
Yeah. And truthfully, I mean, that's
That's why you
why
got to start a YouTube channel.
I was literally just about to say that's why, like, I gotta try to look cool, right? And tell my story. Like, I gotta be like, I went to Panama and like, because it is cool. It
is a cool story. But if
risky
you got to document the shit out of it and put it on YouTube.
Yeah, that's a
and
good
come up
point.
with a strategy, and then you get a following. Like, what's his name? CoffeeZilla.
Oh yeah.
You need a CoffeeZilla kind of name
do.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, look what he's doing. The same thing you're doing, but he's making probably $1 million, $2 million. I don't know what he's making. I'm just making. I don't know. Who knows? Let's say that. Let's say $1 million. Let's say I bet he's making $1 million, and you'll get Patreon, because then people are like, fuck, this guy's doing great things, and I know he's starving.
Yeah.
But he's got a Patreon, and it's only $19 a month. And what do I give a shit? And then they give you get a couple thousand guys like that, and you're making $40,000 a month on Patreon, and you're like, there's tons of ways to capitalize on this, and then you can just, and in some ways people think, oh well, yeah, but I don't want it to be entertainment. No, you can do more things when you get that money.
Right.
You'll be in a position to do great things with it. You're definitely limited. You're limited by
just writing.
yeah,
dude. Totally.
Living with the dogs.
Yeah.
You can't do that. Yeah, living in a spare room. No.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
No.
So yeah,
You do better work if you're driving a BMW.
I would.
Really?
I'd be happier.
Yeah.
Yeah. People say money doesn't buy happiness, but I think
Losers.
I think it does.
Right.
Yeah. I've been poor. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, we do this sort of handover. It takes a couple months for the guy to really feel comfortable with like handing over the documents, which I'm not sure why. I think he was just lazy.
Oh, he's got all of his fucking friends telling him, "Oh, you're getting screwed. You could make $500,000. You could."
Big time.
Yeah.
Like there's a real attitude of like the gringos are fucking you. That kind of thing. So basically we go back and forth for 2 months. He flies to Los Angeles where I was. I meet him. I'm actually flying back to Dublin, Ireland like that very day. It was like the last day I could do it. He really took his time, but official handover, official contract signing, and then he sent me the digital version so I could like take them with me and print them out and stuff. So I fly back to Ireland. I'm there for a couple of weeks, starting up like a new investigative book. But then I have these documents and I start sort of sifting through them, translating them. There's like 500 pages. It takes so long. I then fly. I have a little bit of money to fly to Rome from Ireland, and I get this free apartment from like a family friend, and I live in this apartment for 1 month, literally just like locked myself in, like deciphering these documents and these letters. And there's also like these human rights reports, and there's a lot of like articles from like the New York Times and like the Washington and from Newsweek and from DC, and and basically just like outlining the story from 1971 all the way to like 1987. That's like the area that it covered. So I do that. I spend like a month just like solely doing that in Rome, having a little bit of fun too, but literally just mostly just like in this apartment. And then I write what is now like the manuscript, like the working draft of the book. I send it to the guys, everybody that can like speak English. Everybody reads it. They all really like it. And then like 2 days later, Carlos dies. He drops dead of a heart attack.
Whoa.
2 days later. So he never got a chance to read the book. Right?
Oh, okay.
Never got a chance to read the book.
Right.
But even then, he knew exactly sort of what I was doing. But that was back in March. And then between like now and March, I've just been like slowly refining it by sending it to people for fact checking. They've basically said like, this is great, but you know, this little piece here that you said, like, I don't think it's quite accurate. Like, this is what you should do. So taking all that into consideration, then I just spent the last month in Panama there, speaking with like their newspaper, La Prensa. It's like their head newspaper, interviewing all these veteran journalists who reported on Noriega, like while all this stuff was happening, just making sure everybody was cool, sort of with the fact that like me, like an Irish guy is telling their story. And I will go so far as to say that this book, like, I think it's going to be the most accurate, like, a story told of like this sort of thing, like, ever. Right? Especially because there are books have been written about it in Panama, but they're obviously hypercritical of Noriega, and they focus a lot on the people and like the civil, like, unjust, how it's like unjust civilly during the regime and whatnot, whereas I focus more on the relationship with the United States, which I think just explained things far more, because it really was the CIA and the US that like built him up, gave him everything that he needed, used him, and then when he started saying no in 1984, Poindexter and Oliver North came to him. They said, hey, we want you to send Panamanian troops to Nicaragua to fight and train the Contras. And Noriega said no. At that point, they had just been like trafficking weapons and stuff for the Contras, and they didn't even like the Contras. Carlos called them animals. They liked the Sandinistas. Carlos trained Sandinistas before they were asked to train the Contras. Noriega says no, starts acting on his own interests, and then that really pisses George Bush off, because even though HW is VP under Reagan, he still like basically controls the CIA. Like, the Bushes are the CIA, you know what I mean? Like Langley, Virginia, like that building isn't called Langley, it's called like the George Bush Institute or something like that. You know what I mean? So he's super pissed off. He's like, after all we've done for you, now you're gonna tell us no. And from then the contention just like builds and builds and builds. There's this guy Hugo Spadafora who's, you know, killed by Noriega's troops in 1985 and beheaded and chopped up, and his body's thrown across the border in Costa Rica. And it's like this massive, massive deal. It's like imagine if like he's sort of like a Che Guevara type, you know what I mean? Like like a revolutionary, like a huge deal. And then 86, 87 rolls around, Iran-Contra affair. The US has egg on their face publicly for the first time. It's like the greatest public embarrassment.
So can you explain what the Iran-Contra affair is?
Yeah.
The specifics of it, because most people that are watching this are not going to know.
In a nutshell, the Iran-Contra affair is the U.S. Congress put a trade embargo on U.S. sort of selling arms to Iran or doing any sort of trade with Iran, because in 1979, the Ayatollahs overthrew the Shah of Iran. The Shah of Iran was a U.S.-backed, like,
Puppet.
Dictator, puppet, whatever you want to call him. The Ayatollahs came in, Iran changed forever. During that time, Hezbollah, the terrorist organization, took American hostages, and the US were sort of negotiating with them to try release them. And in like a tactic, the Congress like sort of made this embargo, right? But secretly, the US government were ignoring that trade embargo and selling weapons to Iran, and using the profits of those sales to fund the Contras in Nicaragua. The Contras were like, as Carlos described them to me, they were like animals, but they were in theory pro-American government, whereas the Sandinistas were communists, were anti-American government. So what it
We're trying to back them to overthrow
Exactly.
the Sandinistas, right?
Totally.
Okay.
Trying to back them. Yeah.
But we don't have money from Congress. Like Congress won't give us money. Won't give this. Is it the CIA or won't give?
Yeah, the CIA.
Won't give whatever that element of the United States government. They won't fund it. So the U.S. government or CIA figured out another way to fund it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was all just like behind closed doors,
Yeah.
and the
Which
reason
is illegal.
Illegal. Yeah. What it essentially was is just the American government like lying to Congress and then also lying to the people. Right. It's one giant lie.
Right.
Which happens all the time. Right.
I was gonna say, but for the greater good.
Yeah, for the greater good, right? But the reason why it was such a big deal is that in the 80s, obviously, like the media is popping, like it's everything that happens is being televised, and these pictures started to come out of this plane shot down. It's Eugene Hassenfuss was this like pilot. I think he got shot down in this aircraft. I could be wrong about this, but anyway, it was these photos that were taken in like 1985, 1986 of this plane shot down with Hassenfuss that proved to the world that they were supplying the Contras with like weapons and money. Right before that, like nobody knew. It was all behind closed doors, and when that happened, it just proved to be like a major embarrassment for the US, and the blame was shifted onto Poindexter and North,
Oliver North, and they were the ones that were running the operation for the CIA.
Government. The government, like Reagan said that like he knew nothing about it, and he testified that and all that sort of jazz. But obviously, like
which is just absolutely
total
it's not possible. It's just not true.
No, it's just not possible. Yeah.
And he didn't really testify. By the way, he didn't really say much of anything, by the way. He probably was able to say, I can't remember about 150 different ways. Not sure. I don't recall that at this current time. I don't believe that I can remember that it's possible that I don't. I mean, it was just amazing how many ways he kept just shifting and denying and that doesn't seem like something we would have done. I don't recall that. It's like,
yeah,
motherfucker, Jesus, you're a slippery old guy.
Yeah, and there's like the footage of those like trials or whatever you want to call them, the hearings. Yeah, they're on YouTube, but there's like 100+ hours of them. Like it's impossible to go through.
Same thing with Oliver North. Same thing. They dragged him in front of Congress. Does this? Wait, does he fall on his sword? Does he kind of say he was? He kind of doesn't he kind of say that Reagan knew nothing about it? Is that he kind of?
That's like him and Poindexter like very much fall on their swords.
Yeah.
But then Bush becomes president in '88, and in like the early '90s, North and Poindexter are, like the entire case is thrown out.
Does he?
Whatever you call that. Like everything's just washed away.
Yeah. What is it? He gives them a pardon, right?
A pardon.
Does he pardon them?
Pardon. Yeah. That's the word. Yeah.
Yeah.
So everything's
people were walking around with T-shirts that said Oliver North for president.
No way, really?
That was great.
Did he ever run for president?
No,
he couldn't, right? Yeah.
No, I think he could.
Really?
You could be a former general and run, but the controversy, like I'm sure he probably thought about it. They probably did like a soft survey or something, and probably figured out like, this probably just not enough. Like, right. and you need backers, and he was not a wealthy man, and who's going to back him, and it's very seldom do you want to back someone that just doesn't have a chance.
Right.
But he kind of became, for a lot of people, he was kind of an American hero. Of course, other people felt he was, should go to prison. So
of course, yeah. I mean, that's just like the way of the world, I guess, right?
Yeah.
It's just people are going to be split in terms of that opinion. But in my opinion, like reading about it, this guy Richard Secord, who was involved with North and Poindexter in a lot of these sort of like backdoor negotiations, he wrote this book called Honored and Betrayed. And I think it applies to Poindexter and North quite a bit too. It's that they were really propped up and honored, right? They were like, you guys are American heroes. Like we owe you for doing this service to America.
Yeah. Well, for clarity's sake, look, because I still think it's cloudy. Is that Oliver North and Poindexter are running an operation to help fund rebels that are trying to overthrow a communist government in South America. You see what I'm saying? You see a problem with that.
Yeah.
While the Soviet, it's not Russia, it's the Soviet Union. So we're still during the Cold War. And the fear is, for the United States, the fear is that we don't want the communists to have a foothold anywhere on the North, Central, or South American continent. Like, we do not want a communist government to be there, to be sympathetic to the Soviet Union or China, even though they're not really friendly even at the time. But we don't want that, because if there is a war, then they can very quickly deploy troops on the North America or on the American continent, right, South America, and move up through Central America and come into the United States. Now that's the theory, right?
Right.
And that's what Reagan and Bush and always pushed, that, hey, this is a real thing. The Soviets, or the communists, ultimate goal is to take over the world and spread communism everywhere. And if they get a foothold here, they could come into the United States and take over. Now, in reality, the communists can barely feed themselves. There's never a plan to take over the United States. They can't even get their people here. Like, they don't even have vessels created. The only government really in the world at that time, and really today, that has the ability to move their military and invade another country, that has the vessels and the machinery to do that, really is the United States.
Right.
Right? Like, we have military bases everywhere. Like, the Soviets were never in a position to do that.
Yeah.
You know, they, even at the height of their power, they were never in a position to invade the United States. They were probably never in a position to get enough troops into South America to come up. So in a way, and Reagan, by the way, pushed that constantly. Mm-hmm. The evil empire, it was always, but it was really more about, by scaring the American people, you can keep getting the American people to fund the military machine that pays all these bills, that keeps all of your buddies in power, which keeps you in power, you know, which keeps Reagan in power. And so at that time, I think that's more what it was, because the truth is, if once the wall fell, Soviet Union collapsed, and we got a hold of all of their military, you know, secret documents, and talked to their generals and everything. The truth is, there was just never a time when they were thinking about invading the United States. Did they want to spread communism? Sure, but you know, what can they really do? Like, they could barely get their own troops around their own country. It's so massive, and they're not really invading much of anything. What, Afghanistan? They couldn't hold it. We couldn't hold it. Mm-hmm. You know, they're not really invading anything. They're just trying to keep going. But yeah, Reagan and Bush and all these guys used that as a way to keep a foothold on power. And I love Reagan, by the way. I think Reagan's probably one of the best presidents we've ever had ever. I loved Reagan. I thought he was hilarious. He told great stories. Mm-hmm. I thought he was a great president. But it was a whole manipulation thing, like scare everybody and keep me in power, scare everybody, keep the Republicans in power. Yeah. You know.
Well, you just told that better than I ever could.
Well, I'm just saying, for awesome. Clarity. I just want to be clear,
of course,
why this is important, and that that's really the thing. And to do it, they were breaking laws to do it. They were funding people that Congress, who it really is in the know, disagreed with Reagan. Like, you're pumping all this money into the military for the wrong reasons. Like, the Soviets aren't about to, you know, growing up as a kid growing up in Florida, I've constantly felt like any day now there were going to be Soviet troops landing in New York and California and in Florida, and they would have a foothold, and we may be a full-blown war.
Yeah,
fuckers, they can't even get here. Yeah. They're not even trying to build they're not even trying to build troop transports to get here. They have no interest in invading the United States. It'd be virtually impossible for even now, to this day. China and Russia got together now and wanted to. I doubt they could take and hold Florida if they could get here at all.
No. Yeah, in many ways, I think, because I completely agree with everything that you're saying, I think in many ways it was like an ideological battle.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
You know, it wasn't necessarily like a boots. It was never boots on the ground. That's why it's the Cold War, but it's all about ideology. And that's one thing that the Russians did know how to do, was spread that communist ideology to all these socialist nations. But
communism's a great concept. I love the concept of communism. It sounds great. we're all going to work together and we're all free healthcare and we're all going to work together and love each other and take care of each other. And it doesn't work.
It's never worked.
It's never worked. It's never going to work as long as humans are involved.
Yep.
Somebody's going to consolidate power, take advantage of everybody else. And at least capitalism has the honesty. It's at least honest that, you know what, the people that own the businesses are going to take advantage of the workers, and the workers have every opportunity to open their own businesses and compete, and then they can be in control. But that's the bottom line, and that's just the way people are. People are going to always be concerned with their own self-interest, and it's horrible, and it's dark, and it's nature. And you're not going to breed that out of people, and you're not going to educate that out of people, because there's always going to be some psychopath that's going to be like, these fuckers.
Yeah.
They'll believe anything.
Yeah.
And they're going to seize power, and they're going to take over, and communism just never ends up working.
Yeah.
You know?
Never
and
has.
capitalism does. And it's, it's at least honest about it.
Right.
Like, I don't mind you kind of fucking me over, but don't tell me you're doing me a favor while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like, at least, and at least in capitalism, you have the ability to go out and start your own business, and maybe you can be on top someday if you work hard enough.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. I completely agree with everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree. You can disagree completely.
No, I do. I'm a total capitalist.
Okay.
I mean, even though I'm a poor writer and
Right.
I could probably benefit from socialism.
Yeah.
No, I'm a capitalist, man. I think merit-based society is like the way to go. But that being said, as well, like these guys like that sort of communist influence and whatnot. Like you look at Cuba, right, and Fidel Castro. In Latin America, Fidel Castro, to a lot of these like socialist countries, like he's like a god, right? Let's look at today with like Maduro in Venezuela. He was the VP of Hugo Chavez, who died in 2013. But Maduro now has a $50 million bounty on his head that the U.S. government has put on his head, right? He's being supplied with like weapons and money from China and Russia, and he even had this like really, it's kind of funny. He had this press conference where he shows off his Chinese phone. He says the Americans can't track me now. He's like, because of this wonderful Chinese phone. Right. And it's just so obvious. But it really just, it goes to show that like the Cold War, I don't think it ever really technically ended. Like the wall falling and Gorbachev being like kicked out or taken out of his seat or whatever. That's all.
It just went underground.
It just went underground. Like, Putin's a product of the KGB. Like he was a KGB spy. Like this stuff never really ended. And it all just sort of, it's all just proxy wars. Like America's funding one side, the Soviets are funding the other side. But now it's, the Chinese that are sort of rising up and like doing things a little bit differently with the Belt and Road Initiative. But they're still funding Venezuela at the moment. Like, did you see the amphibious tanks that they gifted Venezuela? I'm pretty sure it was China. Like,
No.
dude, they're these wild tanks that just like there's videos of them like rolling off the beach like into the ocean, and it's meant to like show like, oh, we if these US warships are really going to attack us, like we can defend ourselves. Like, no, the fuck you can't.
No, you can't.
No
Stop.
way, dude. Those things are like floating islands.
Right.
Those things are like islands, dude.
Right. And what are you going to have? Like they give them probably what, 20, 40? Even if they give them 100.
I don't even know, but like not enough, But
Yeah.
it just goes to show that, and this is what I try to really highlight in the book, because even though this book is like, it's about Noriega, Panama, Iran-Contra, like all of these very complex issues that nobody knows everything about, the book serves as a framework for how and why the CIA and the US government pick a foreign strongman, how and why they build him up and use him, and then how and why they discard of them when they have no more use, only to repeat the cycle and do it all again. Like all over the world, so many different like uprisings have been funded by the CIA, just like we had spoken about. You know what I mean? Like funding the Contras, like that was their intention, was to put the Contras into power, to have a US friendly leader in place so that they could, obviously have control, but if they ever like wanted to put like US military bases there, they could. Like trade is easier. Like it makes sense. It's sort of just like it's a way of the world that like I think a lot of people do realize this and know this, but they don't know why they know this, or they don't know why or how it affects the people in that country, and sort of how really at the end of the day it sort of is like imperialism. It's like US imperialism. Yeah. Which nobody ever puts that label on it.
At what point, kind of jump in there and explain from here on, where at some point I understand that, and you kind of talked about, you said, we used him up and then we discarded him, but you don't explain the invasion.
Of course.
So you want to explain, like, you discarded him, and the way that happened was...
Yep.
You know, the invasion, the tracing him down. Because I think we talked about that prior to all this.
Right. Okay.
Does that stuff, when you and I had that conversation, wasn't going to be on camera.
Yep.
So,
Right.
So you and I are thinking we already just discussed that. No, we didn't discuss it on film.
Okay. Yep. Well, I can start with how he became the dictator, right? 1981, previous dictator Omar Torrijos mysteriously dies in a plane crash. Okay?
Yeah.
Mysteriously dies in a plane crash.
Well, he's about to win the election or something like that, or he was going to? Or
no.
he was already president.
Already dictator.
okay.
Yeah, he was already the dictator, but the situation in Nicaragua was intensifying. The Sandinistas were winning. The United States really needed an ally in Panama to take care of that problem in Nicaragua. Omar Torrijos was saying no. He was a socialist. He was on the side of the Sandinistas. Mysteriously dies in a plane crash. Sometime after
That happens.
It happens. Yeah, mysteriously. Sometime later, Noriega becomes the dictator in 1983. CIA are asking a lot of favors of him to support their efforts in Nicaragua. Noriega does like weapons trafficking, things like that. Oliver North and Poindexter come to him in 1984. They say, thanks for, helping us out in Nicaragua with all the weapons and the money and whatever. Now we want you to send Panamanian troops there and like really dive into that for us. Noriega says no. As the years progress, he continues to say no to the US government and CIA when they ask him for favors. He's really focused on curbing the drug trade coming out of Colombia. The documents that I have prove that he was just like basically stopping like all of that trade, right? So a lot of those drugs coming out of Colombia could not go to the US. Obviously they did filter through, and the CIA and the whole Barry Seal thing, that's how they got them in, through the airplanes and through those trade routes.
Right.
1986, 87 rolls around. Iran-Contra is exposed. Noriega becomes a scapegoat, right? The media, the narrative, they find a way to shift the blame to Noriega. The war on drugs starts. Nancy Reagan, makes that announcement, and Noriega continues to contest the U.S. government as the years pass by. Reagan actually did say to Noriega right before H.W. became president, right at the very end of Reagan's second term, he said to Noriega, "Is like, dude, you need to leave Panama. Like, you need to stop doing this. If you want to live, like, you got to get out of there." He's like, "You got to stop what you're doing and get out of there." And Noriega said, "F you." You know what I mean? He said, "F you." His ego got so big. H.W. comes into power in 1988. Noriega's like there's no democracy in Panama. All of the elections are BS.
Rigged.
All of Noriega's guys in the dictatorship are running the country. So H.W. decides to launch Operation Just Cause, which is the invasion of Panama. Happened on December 20th, 1989. The U.S. sent 27,000 troops to Panama with the intention of extracting Manuel Noriega to take him back to the U.S. to stand trial.
Do you understand how insane that is? You have a dispute with the leader of another country, and you send in the military. You're making veiled threats like, "Oh, we'll come get you." So they indict him on drug trafficking,
On
right?
3 different charges: racketeering, money laundering, drug trafficking.
Right. So they indict him. And are you saying that he wasn't doing that?
No, I think it's
he
pretty
probably-
obvious that he
he
was.
was. Okay, I was gonna
but
say,
they didn't
yeah.
have a lot of proof.
Right. Well, they've got an indictment.
Yeah.
So they've indicted him, and you think, okay, so we've indicted Putin. Like that, Putin's been, like I think the international court, like that, they're saying we'll arrest you if he ever leaves Russia and goes to other countries. Like they're going to arrest him and put him on trial in Belgium or something.
Yeah.
Wherever the UN is. But so it's ridiculous. But the United States indicts this guy and then invades his country to get him on the indictment. That's pretty fucking amazing. Like I don't know of that ever happening ever. Like that's just in the United States history. That seems really, really ballsy.
Super ballsy. Didn't need, it was, up until that point, it was the largest military exercise since Vietnam. Like, it was huge. It was 27,000 troops. It lasted 10, 11 days because Noriega hid out in the Vatican embassy in Panama to try, get shelter and whatnot. And U.S. soldiers, surrounded the Vatican embassy, trying to psychologically torture him, playing, Van Halen's Panama on repeat to, try, get him out of there. Dude, it was nuts. You know what I mean? But the Panama Defense Forces were so much weaker. Like we said earlier, they're security guards compared to the U.S. government. There's this great documentary Barbara Trent directed it. It won the best documentary at the Oscars in 1993 or 1992, and it sort of focuses on like the civilian aspect of the U.S. invasion of Panama. The U.S. said that there were like 300 casualties on Panama's side. In reality, it was like thousands, right? It was like 3,000, and there were stories of like the U.S. Army like testing weapons out on the Panamanian people. Like it was one giant like test, right? But they get Noriega, of course they do. You know what I mean? Like they know exactly where he is. They get him. They bring him to Miami. They bring him to Florida. He stands trial. It's like a BS trial. He goes to prison here in Florida for I think 11 years or something like that, and then he gets extradited to France because he
can't go back to Panama.
Well, not yet.
Or they don't want him back.
They don't want him back yet, but France want him because he had like this money laundering scheme in France. He owned a bunch of property, and and he really pissed off the French government. So
I thought he went to France because like they were saying you can come here and retire.
No. They hated him. They put him in I forget the name of the prison in Paris, but they put him in like a shithole prison, like a really terrible prison. And he was there. I forget how long he was there for, but in 2011, the Panamanian government is basically like, all right, we want him back. So he comes back to Panama and he dies in prison in Panama in 2017.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he spends like the last, 20 years of his life or so behind bars, like in prison. But yeah, in 1989, he basically was the subject of like the U.S. invasion of Panama, and it was titled Operation Just Cause.
Yeah, sounds nice.
Yeah.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Makes it sound reasonable.
It makes it sound, just like, I think it's kind of a funny title because obviously HW meant for it to mean like it's a just cause.
Yeah.
Like, but then the way I see it is like, oh, why are you invading Panama?
Just cause.
Just because we can.
Yeah.
You know? And that's kind of, but the interesting thing here, the book sort of follows this theme that the behind these closed doors, what it really comes down to is two men, HW and Bush, just butting heads. Like there were personal vendettas. Like the U.S. invasion of Panama.
You said HW and Bush.
Oh, sorry, HW and Noriega. My bad.
Yeah,
my brain.
heads,
Yeah,
right.
HW and Noriega, butting heads, personal vendettas. Noriega pissed Bush off so much that he just like the tensions rose and it just led to the U.S. invasion of Panama.
I will send a fucking 25% of the fucking military down there to fucking take your ass out, right? And then if we have to roll through a few neighborhoods to do it.
That's exactly what they did. Yeah, there was this one really great story that Carlos told me, can't be proven, totally behind closed doors, said that Bush and a few other nameless, faceless people of the CIA were meeting with Noriega and his people, and the meeting, whatever it was about, got really testy. And apparently Bush stands up, he's like, I'm not taking this shit, points at Noriega, he says, you're gonna regret this. And it's like, and the way Carlos tells it is like, it was like a threat. It was like a personal vendetta. It was like a personal threat. It had nothing to do with like the nations or, national security or whatever.
Right.
It was, one guy being pissed off by the ego of another guy. And don't get me wrong, Noriega pissed a lot of people off. Like he was not a good person.
Right.
But behind those closed doors, that's what a lot of people say really led to, that's what led to the invasion of Panama, not necessarily the scapegoating of like the Iran-Contra affair or whatever. But that's why it's so complex, this whole thing. It's like I feel every time I talk about it or every time I speak to someone who's really knowledgeable about it, it's like opening up a chest and all these bats are flying out and, you're just discovering things that you never thought about or never seen before. And yeah, it's complex. It's complex for a reason.
Yeah, when I was watching the documentary, and they were just talking about the different civilian casualties and I guess the military was trying to say that the Panamanian military was kind of like an urban combat, right? Like they knew the neighborhoods and the U.S. military didn't. So the military is just, they're going through these neighborhoods trying to find the Panamanian military. And so there's a lot of shooting and that, civilians get killed. And it made me think of, there is a movie called Siege, which has Denzel Washington in it and Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis is like a general, let's say. I think he's a general in the movie. And so it's just funny. This is all pre 9/11, this movie. Huh. And it's about a terrorist group inside of New York, and they're setting off bombs. And so they send in, the president sends in the military to take control of New York City and find the terrorist cells and get rid of them. And Bruce Willis has a great speech in front of the president and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he's saying the whole time, he's saying, bad idea. And this is my troops. And he's like, we're not. He says it much better than me, but he says, this is a military. We're not a scalpel. We're a blunt instrument. Like we're a hammer, and we don't deal well with we're not the police. We don't deal well with civilians. Like if you're in the military, like civilians, they complain back like it's a blunt boom. We're not having a discussion about this. I said, get back. I don't have to get back. It's just a smash in the fucking face. And he's like, this is a bad idea. He's like, if you tell me to do it, I will do it. But you have to understand how bad this is going to be for the civilian population. And sure enough, it's bad. I mean, this is a U.S. troops taking over a U.S. city, trying to find terrorist organizations. And I mean, it's a great movie. It's a great, great movie. But it makes me think of every time you have the military go into any civilian population, like the military, as great as they are at some things, are horrific. They're not police officers. They're not warm and fuzzy, and they're not going to try and reason with you, and it's just blunt force. And then it's very quickly, when your only tool is a hammer, pretty soon everything looks like a nail. And that's, what I'm saying? That's how they handle everything. They, we get back. No, okay, bam, bam, bam. They just start firing. Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff that happens in the movie. It's brutal. Yeah. Like, they don't know how to do those things. Same thing with, you're looking for these guys, and it becomes urban combat, and everybody becomes like, oh no, he's a civilian. He's you know what? He's a 15-year-old. He's 15 years old. He kind of looks like a man. It's dark. He should be in the alleyway. If he wasn't a risk or wasn't a danger, he would be in his house. Kill him. Kill everybody that's outside at 11:30 at night is an enemy combatant. And very quickly, people start to get killed. Yeah. It's a bad situation to send the military into any type of any type of residential area to deal with civilians. It's just bad. You never hear any good stories.
How could it end up good?
Oh, the military came in. Gosh, they were great. They were great. Yeah. Of course. Billy Bob from the cornfields of Nebraska is not going to deal well with a bunch of Panamanians throwing rocks at him.
No way.
He's not going to be okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, and he doesn't have a can of mace. He's got an M16 or an AR-15.
Yeah.
It's all bad.
Yeah.
It's all bad.
Yeah.
So they eventually, they grab Noriega, and they kill thousands of civilians going in, and yeah. So, yeah, but I mean, like you said, that's the same thing over and over and over again. It's constantly they prop up a dictator, and as long as they do what the United States says, they're happy. And in the moment they say that they start give any kind of pushback, it's like, okay, well, this is going to go bad for you.
Forgive me, I know you went over it. Like, what are these documents? What their communication with the U.S. government and Noriega? Like, what?
Yeah, these are docs. These are docs that came from sound like the U.S. government, the CIA, communicating with Noriega that only Noriega was in possession of. That the United States government kind of says, like, that's why I was joking around about Bush. Like, if they said, hey, man, we really appreciate everything you're doing and helping us here and helping us. Like, I'm sure Bush is like, fuck, wish I hadn't sent that. Like, that was a mistake. Like, a lot of these documents, I'm sure they don't wish had survived.
Yeah, they're correspondence. So they're letters, right? They're letters typically between the administrators of the DEA and Noriega, some of which are letters from just various like CIA agents to Noriega, but they're all just correspondence that are talking about like something. So for instance, a lot of the DEA ones would be like, we want to thank you, Mr. Noriega or Colonel Noriega, for stopping X amount of narcotics from passing through the Panama Canal on X date. And then they will literally say like, without you, like our efforts would not be this great, and like the narco trade from Colombia to the United States would be like a huge risk to the security of our nation. Like they'll say things exactly like that. So they're direct correspondence, they're letters directly to Noriega from an official member of the US government. And they're all positive. It's basically either gratitude or asking for a favor. And it just shows like how important Noriega was, because there are hundreds of these letters.
So they're working together, they're friendly, and then they go and indict him. And
But once he pushes back, but the problem is behind the scenes, Noriega's also kind of selling. I'm assuming it's kind of like selling airspace, right? Like, is he's really picking up drugs and transporting it in military transport, or is he really allowing planes to kind of land? You know, this is something that Castro supposedly had done for like a decade. And I think he just at some point got word where they kind of lease their airspace. They'll allow, let's say, a Colombian plane that they know is filled with
drugs.
What did we say?
Just like
Drugs. They'll allow thousands of keys to be in a plane to be landed in their airport, refueled, and then take off again to drop or unloaded, loaded onto boats, and then shipped over to the Keys where they could just drive it up through Florida. Something along those lines, let's say. And so they're leasing that space. So and people are like, okay, well, what they're doing is you're now conspiring. You're now in the conspiracy to import drugs into the United States, and they can make a ton of money doing that. Which is what Noriega was doing. He's stopping these drug shipments, and then he's allowing some flights to go in as long as he's getting paid for it. But he's also every once in a while seizing or stopping or seizing or working with the DEA to seize shipments of drugs. And then so that he can then get a letter from the United States government. He's also on their payroll. He's getting like $100,000 or something. And this is 30 years ago.
Yeah.
40 years
40.
ago.
Yeah.
40 years ago, $100,000. That's like getting $1 million a year cash from the United States government. Plus, what's he getting from these drugs coming in? The flight, every time they land, they're paying him whatever, $1,000 a kilo or something. You've got, however many kilos on this plane or that plane, and it's I forget what they call it, PISA or there's a name for the tax. Mm-hmm. The narcos have a name for the tax.
Huh.
Pete knows it. The name for the tax that they charged to move drugs, because what a kilo costs in Colombia versus what it costs the moment it crosses the border in the United States or in New York City is vastly different. It starts off at $1,500, and by the time it hits New York, it's $30,000.
Right.
Because it's been charged over and over and over again, this tax by every single leg. You go through the tunnel, that's fine. We want $1,000 for every single kilo you're going to bring through the tunnel.
Right.
Or
yeah.
whatever.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what Noriega was doing. And it's funny you brought up Castro, because totally doing that. And Carlos knew all about that.
Didn't he stop at some point?
That's what people say. And Carlos
You think it's still going on?
No, I don't think it's still going on. I could be wrong about that. Like, what do I know? But what Carlos told me was that that absolutely went on, and that they would that's also how they would trap a lot of guys too. So Castro, would provide information to the CIA and DEA. There's a reason why Castro stayed in power for all those years. You know what I mean? Like, if the US really wanted to, they could have just done what they did to Noriega to Castro. And I know that's what they kind of did with the Bay of Pigs and all of that. And that was unsuccessful. But he's 90 miles from Florida.
That was another.
You know what I mean? It's like
fiasco.
Yeah. So Carlos described it as Castro fed the white bear just enough to keep it.
Colby doesn't know what
happy.
the Bay of Pigs is.
Yeah.
He doesn't know.
They killed all them pigs, and
Nothing to do with pigs.
I'm currently trying to learn about it. I didn't know.
Oh my gosh!
I didn't know that much about it. I still don't.
It's horrific. It's funny. It depends on whose side you are or whose version you read or believe. I guess is that. And honestly, I really think that basically Kennedy just fucked those guys over.
Yeah.
Like the invasion was that the CIA trained a bunch of guys. Gosh, I'm going to say somewhere. Let's say Panama. I don't know. Somewhere in South America, they trained a bunch of these guys who had been displaced by Castro when he took over. So trained a bunch of former military officer or former military, the Cuban military to invade Cuba. So they were going to invade Cuba. They did invade Cuba, not they were going to. They did. They invaded Cuba. And the agreement with the United States was, one, if you can get a foothold and hold a beachhead, we'll allow, you can call the United States and we will support you. We'll send you air support, fuel, and ammunition. All you got to do is hold a beachhead for like a day. They held a beachhead for like 5 days. They invaded, they held the beachhead, and after 5 days, they you could hear them pleading with the CIA to, we're good, send us troops, send us this. And keep in mind, if they can take any part of Cuba at that point, then the United States government can come in and help support them and whatever. And of course, the Cubans may or may not have uprose against Fidel Castro. But, they basically let them run out of fuel and ammunition, and then they just got grabbed by the Cuban military came in and just overwhelmed them and took them. And so really it was Kennedy that just completely, of course, Kennedy's administration is like, oh, it was a horrible operation. It was this. No. You let those guys get fucking slaughtered.
Yeah.
That's what happened because he didn't like, and he also, by the way, limited, because they had one plan where they had air support. So they had their own planes.
Huh.
So the Cubans that were invading had their own planes, and Kennedy said, no, you can't have any air support at all. They're like, no, we've got our own planes. We're not asking for the U.S. military to come in. We have our own planes. His fear was it looked too much like a Normandy operation, like a military-backed operation, if you have your own air support and everything. And he still agreed, though, if you can take the beachhead, it's like, okay, you keep limiting everything that we're doing. They still took the beach. They held it for several days, and then he just let them run out of, and they got grabbed, and they're executed, and I think it's 3,500 men or something. I forget how many they got, and they killed them all, and it was fucking brutal.
It's a huge betrayal.
Yeah, it was a huge betrayal.
Yeah.
And Kennedy, of course, blamed it on the CIA. Oh, it's a CIA operation. No, you limited the whole thing. You didn't live up to any of the obligations that had been agreed upon. The problem was most of the obligations that were agreed upon were with the former administration.
Oh, really?
But once he took office, imagine this. He'd been bashing, I forget who he ran against, but he'd been bashing him the whole time about Cuba.
Really?
And the guy can't say anything.
Huh.
And then when Kennedy takes over and they have their first meeting when they kind of hand over power, they have a meeting and he says, oh, by the way, we've been training these guys and they're going into Cuba in about 2 months.
Wow.
Now Kennedy's like, fuck, I really don't want this to happen. And what if it fails? And then when he hears the plans for the operation, he does two things. One, he changes it from a very easy place to land to the Bay of Pigs. Which everybody told him is horrible. Like, no, you can't land there. Like, it's rocky, it's this, there's almost nowhere to go. Like, no, it's a horrible place. No, that's where they're going to land there. Okay, well, you're fucking, that's a problem. And all these planes and the air support, no, we're getting rid of that. It looks too much like a Normandy-style operation. Fuck!
Yeah.
They still go in. And he says, but if you can take the beachhead, and hold it for 24 hours or whatever the time was. We'll send in troops. Well, they held it. They requested troops for fucking days on days on days, and they refused to send anything in, and they allowed them to run out of fuel and ammunition, and the Cubans came in and slaughtered them. And that's kind of what happened. And then, of course, immediately Kennedy turned around and just blamed everything on the CIA, and it was a botched operation. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And it was all planned by the CIA and the former administration. But the truth is, you're the one who was really the problem. And, of course, the papers loved Kennedy.
Yeah.
They loved him. There was Camelot, right? Like, that was the name. That's what they kind of called the Kennedy administration was. It was Camelot because they were all so beautiful and well-spoken and wonderful people. And so...
Yep.
But the truth is, it was all bullshit. Yeah, It was just fucked up. But see, by fucking up, because of that, that's when the Soviets came in and said, well, you know what? Fuck, they're going to try and take this.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and support Castro. And that's when they were going to start putting nuclear weapons in Cuba. And that's what led to the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yep.
Which Kennedy did a great job with.
Yeah.
Really.
Right. Yeah. The whole thing is
it's super interesting.
Super interesting. Yeah. I'm trying like little by little to learn more about it. Actually, that's why I was supposed to go to Cuba a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because there's a guy in Panama who thinks that my next book should be about that, even though a lot of books have been written about it, you know, which I'm not crazy about. But I think there's an angle. I just don't know what it is, you know, because I do think that the theme of betrayal is very strong there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I'm trying to figure out if I want to write it or if I don't. But I need the right contact in Cuba, and a lot of those guys are dead. Happened so long ago.
Yeah. What was the name of the book I read? It was like the 241 Brigade or something. That's absolutely not the name, by the way. But it was something. It was the name of whatever the name of the brigade was. That was actually the brigade that I think had gotten out of Cuba or something. But one of the things was about, and this is part of the reason I say it was Kennedy did an amazing job of keeping us out of that invasion, is because, and this is what I had heard, was that we thought that the only missiles were on the boats that came in.
Right.
But what I had heard was that Cuba already had smaller, kind of like almost handheld missiles, right? Like that they could have still fired missiles at if the troops had come and they had the ability to do it. So there would have been small nuclear weapons that would have been used to fight off an invasion. I had heard that somewhere. I can't recall where. And as a result, because for a long time I used to think they should have just invaded. But the truth is, if that would have happened and Castro would have used nuclear weapons, I believe, if he had fired those or used those, or those troops had fired with nuclear weapons and we had determined that nuclear weapons had been used, I think nuclear weapons, then Kennedy would have had no choice but to fire nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
It's also funny how close I feel like the Joint Chiefs, did not like him at all. Like if there was ever a time when there could have been a possible military coup, that very well may have been in the United States. That very well may have been the moment.
Totally. Yeah.
He did not like him at all.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. Yeah. Totally. That was the closest the U.S. ever came to like fucking destruction.
I read a book, by the way, of one of the interns that he had an affair with.
Huh.
It was like 100 pages long. It was a great book.
Really?
It was probably.
Do you remember what it was called?
Yeah. It was something about a secret, something like My Secret or The Secret or something. Her name was Mimi. I remember her name was Mimi. And it's like 100 pages long. But somebody like, I forget, Kissinger, I forget who it was that came out with his autobiography.
Yeah, it was probably Kissinger.
Yeah, just happens to mention that Kennedy was definitely having an affair. In fact, he had a long-standing career, like 18 months or something, he doesn't name her, but very quickly they figure out who exactly. Like, boom, boom, boom. She was from Kentucky or Connecticut. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, it's got to be this chick right here. And they show up on her front door. She walks out one day to go to work, and I mean, she's like 60 years old. And just like at this point, walks out the door, and I mean, there's like 50 reporters. Are you so and so? Did you work in the Kennedy administration? Were you at the? And she was just like. And so she went ahead and wrote this a little quick 100-page book, probably just to cash in, and it was great.
Really?
It was a great little tiny short read, and it really was an amazing little memoir, just about her time in the White House. It was really good.
Does it paint any sort of picture of like behind the scenes decisions that Kennedy would have made?
Not
or
decisions like as much as just who he was and how he treated her, and not a gentleman. Like at one point, because he's banging this chick whenever he wants, and she's like 18 years old. He's like in his 40s,
right? And
he's having sleeping with her whenever and she's just does whatever he wants. If he just says stops and pulls his thing out and he says lock the door, and she drops on her knees and goes at it. He does and at one point he's with his brother. And his brother is super stressed out. Like she's in the room, and he's like, "Listen, what's going on with such and such? Like we got to figure this out." And he's like, "Yeah, you're all stressed. Quit stressing so much." And he goes, you know what? He said, he goes, Bobby's under a lot of stress. He goes, Mimi, why don't you, give him a blowjob? And his brother turns to him and says, the fuck is wrong with you? What do you, and he says, Mimi, will you please leave? And she leaves. I mean, he just balls him out. And she blows one of his fucking other staff members.
Wow.
Like there's another time he asked her to do that. And she goes, and I did. I did exactly what he asked me to do.
Yeah.
She's like, he's the president of the United States. She said, I was enamored with him. I was absolutely enthralled with the fact that I was around him. She said, I did exact. So you read it and you're like, oh, wow, he was really kind of a pig. Like he's a real.
Wow. Yeah.
It's a great book. It's a great, and I don't think she made any of this up. She's 60 some odd years old. She's retired. She doesn't need any of this. She didn't want she kept the lie her whole life until she was outed. And even in the book, she was never really negative. She never said, oh, I felt like I was taken advantage of her. She never says any of that.
Yeah.
She takes full responsibility for all of it. It's a great little book.
That sounds awesome.
It's something, Once Upon a Secret. Oh, it's something like that. Come on, Colby.
I'll look it up. I'll find it.
Once Upon a Secret. I'm telling you. Listen, I have a horrible memory. If that's right.
Once Upon a Secret, My Affair with President John F. Kennedy.
Oh, what's her name?
Mimi Alford.
Bro,
there we go.
Nobody's more impressed with me than me right now. It's a great book.
That sounds awesome.
It's great, and it's only like how many pages is it? By the way, I say 100. Maybe it was 199 or something. It was super short. How many? It should say right underneath it. It'll say like pages. It says the weight of the book. How many pages? If it's on Amazon.
224 pages.
225. I really felt like it was short. I always felt like it was shorter than that. Yeah. Huh? Oh, that one says 198. Ooh, yeah. I always remember thinking it was very short.
Yeah.
That's actually a regular, and I'll be honest with you, the pages are it's a square book. It's not the typical 280 pages or 280 words per page.
Right.
Which is probably what your book is.
Yeah, about that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not. It's probably 150 words per page.
It's a tiny little guy.
I'm telling you, if you put it on a regular thing, I'm telling you, it's probably 100 pages, maybe 30,000 words, 40,000 words. Yeah, nowhere near the 90. 90,000 words is about a 300-page book.
Yep, this book's 90,000 words. Yeah.
You see? Yeah. See? Yeah. So it's a great book. It's a great book, though. I mean, if you can't, you knock it out in 4 hours, 3 hours, you'd knock the whole thing out.
Yeah.
But and she writes, the way she writes is, it's phenomenal. The way like her marriage, if you read it and you get to this point, like how do you sum up a marriage, a 30-year marriage? It's like, that's tough. She doesn't literally, it's like a paragraph. And it's a little bit more wordy than this, but it's basically like, we had 10 good years. There were family vacations, Disney World, SeaWorld, such and such, whatever. Went to Hawaii, a week in Hawaii. There were amazing times. And then she says there were 10 bad years. There were 10 years where we ignored one another, and then it was over. I mean, wow. Listen, I'm telling you, when you read that, like as a writer, when you read it, when I read it, I got goosebumps. It was so good the way she summed it up. I was like, I felt like I totally understand her marriage. Yeah. I totally understand what happened. And it was great. And I love the divorce. When the divorce happened, she explains it over the course of it's like a page where she explains, she walks in one day and she says, she explains their relationship at that point, how it went on a daily basis. And one day she walked in and she was like 58 years old or 60 years old. And she walked in and she said, and her husband's reading the paper, sitting in his chair, reading the paper. And she walks in and he folds the paper down, looks at her and he says, yes. And she goes, I think I want a divorce. And he goes, I'll start looking for apartments tomorrow. And she said, okay. And he puts the paper back up and continues to read. And she says, and like the next paragraph explains that, he got a lawyer, I got a lawyer. Within a month, we had an agreement, and and it was over. Wow. It's really awesome. Those are those kind of joining things that you need to explain, right? But it's not the whole thing. Yeah, that's interesting. That's kind of like poetry, how it's beautiful. Yeah, in so little words, you understand such a variety of emotions. Right. You totally get it. Yeah. So but yeah, it's something, and it may tell something about. So she mentions one or two things about what's going on, but very briefly.
Yeah,
That's
interesting.
It does explain stuff, and it explains like the first time they had sex, like where it was, which room it was in. He sees her one time at a party. Next time she finds out she's been chosen to be an intern, she's thrilled. She's there, and I think it's pretty much on her first or second day. He comes in. He says, "Well, what's your name?" And, I'm such a. He's like, "Have you seen the White House? Have you had a tour?" She's like, "No, not yet." And she's totally nervous. He's like, "Well, here, let me take you on a tour." And he walks her around. He walks her right into one of the bedrooms, like the Roosevelt bedroom or the George Washington bedroom. They all have these names.
Right.
Walks in there, and he basically lays her down on the bed, or takes her clothes off, lays her down naked on the bed, and has sex with her.
Wow.
I mean,
that's wild.
It's fucking it's insane. She explains all the different times.
Right.
And then she'd go off to she would live in the dorm. She'd go off for the semester, go back to school. He would call her at the dorm. Like they had a phone, like a pay phone in the dorm. Like you don't have phones, right? It's a pay phone in the dorm. And some girl would come and say, "Hey, your cousin's on the cousin so and so, whatever his code name was." And she'd be like. And she'd run over and pick it up, and he'd go, "Hey, Mimi, how you doing? How's classes?" And have a little conversation. He'd call like once a week or something, and it was just she would live for those phone calls. And then when then sometimes he'd say, "What are you doing this weekend? I can have a car come pick you up, and you can go with me for, you can be there. You probably shouldn't leave the room, and you understand." And the press knew. They knew, but they gave him a pass.
Interesting.
Back then, you didn't talk about stuff like that. You gave him a pass, and she stayed in the room, this massive room where there's a whole top floor of some hotel where he was going to be, and he'd come up every once in a while and hit it, fucking leave, and she'd just wait around for him to come back and hit it again and leave, and she'd get in a car and they'd take her back and put her on a plane and fly her back home.
Wow.
This is going on for 6 months or 18 months. I forget the length of it, but it's a good book. It's a good book.
That sounds awesome.
And it's a good book, and it's a good book. I say that because it's something I'm totally not interested in.
Right.
But I was riveted by her writing.
Yeah.
And how good it was.
It sounds great, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the book.
The book. Yeah.
So, who released? Did you self-publish it?
I'm releasing it on November 4th with a company called Bookhouse Publishing.
Okay.
The reason why we're releasing with them is we sort of have this mutual connection. A guy who used to be a CIA agent used them to publish one of his books. So we know them and we know how to work with them and all that sort of stuff. So we're doing it on November 4th.
So it's a publisher, but it's an online publisher.
Exactly.
They're still going through Amazon to publish. It's a publishing company.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's a print on demand.
Print on demand, exactly. And then Ingram Spark, so that bookstores can, buy it wholesale and stuff like that. It's the same thing. I mean, the only difference is that when you say you're publishing with Penguin or whatever, you have so much prestige. It looks so good.
And if you go into Barnes and Nobles, there's probably 5 copies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I'm going to take my Garth Brooks book, and I'm just going to take 5 of them and go and stick them on the shelf and leave.
Really?
They'll be like, every once in a while, they'll be like, "What? We don't have this in the system. What is this barcode? Jennifer, do you know about this?" I'll take some pictures of me next to the book in Barnes and Nobles. I want to go to his bar. Anyway, he's got a bar in Nashville called Friends in Low Places. I want to go in there with the book.
Dude.
Well, I actually have a stand I made. A stand where you can put 10 books in it. I want to go in there and put it on the bar.
Oh.
And then if the bartender goes, "Hey man, what's this?" I'm gonna be like, "I don't know, bro. Paul told me to drop this off. I guess Garth is selling books or somebody wrote a book. I don't know, bro." And just walk off. just leave it there. He'll be like, "What is this?" Oh.
You should totally do that. I've been there.
Have Jess video my wife video the whole thing. I don't know, bro. Talk to John from the publisher, from the marketing company. I don't know what these guys are doing. I was just told to drop it off, walk off. What's he going to do? Stop me? He's going to be like, "Oh, yeah, it's got a picture. So we must be doing something."
That might be the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, that might. And then the cease and desist comes. This is enough. I was going to say, I've had I published a book with Skyhorse Publishing, and it's funny. I shouldn't say this, but I've made more money publishing with Amazon, way more money.
Right.
I mean, Skyhorse did pay me in advance,
Yeah.
but trust me, you'll make more money, which they want you to do anyway.
Yeah.
You'll make more money doing a bunch of podcasts and publishing the way you're doing it than you were ever going to, Doubleday or Doubleday's down Penguin, whatever.
I don't know.
One of the big publishers.
I had a fiction book published when I was 25. I got taken advantage of. I don't even think I've seen $100 in total.
Did you get an advance?
No advance. I was just taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And I didn't do any, I felt like I was screwed, so I didn't do any self-marketing. I honestly just it was like the child that I just got rid of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I abandoned it. But yeah, ever since then I've just done self-publishing because I can control it more, and I've just begun to notice that you can still get it into those regular distribution channels yourself. You don't need to be a publisher to get into all the distribution channels that you want.
Right.
So.
What was I going to say about if you had documented this whole kind of thing with just grabbed a Sony, not one of these, but a Sony Vio and a gimbal, and just kind of talked about, hey, I'm here with so-and-so, we've been doing, talked for 5 minutes about what you're currently doing and then shut it off. I mean, it's not like this, it's not this setup where it's polished and everything, but you could have several of those and you could put those on your channel.
Right.
And then, twice a week. And then when you're completely done, you do a whole thing like this, where you do 3 hours talking about each chapter of the book.
Interesting.
Not read it, but just talk about it. This is how this started. Do a 30 minute, and release those. You'd be shocked how many people would. And you were doing this, because people would be interested in you, and then they're going to go and they're going to look for you, and they're going to find this.
Right.
And any interview you do, you just tell them, listen, at some point we have to talk about my YouTube channel.
Yep.
Because I'm trying to monetize this at some point so I can keep going.
Got it.
And then that would you next thing you know, you're CoffeeZilla. 2 years later.
Right.
Because you're doing it anyway. I mean, it's only going to take a few hours a week.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be polished. You'll get better and better. But a year from now, you'll be putting out videos that are fucking flawless.
Yeah.
Because you'll just learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. No, that's good to know.
And it's, and you don't have to. They don't have to be perfect. Because what's great is that 2 years from now, Mary Shelley's heard the same story. 2 years from now, people will look back and the first few videos you put out are just dog shit. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh my God, I'm not looking in the camera. I'm looking at myself. I'm doing this. I used this word out of context. They're just horrible, right? Half my face is off the camera. It's staring at the dog in the back. I don't know what I'm doing. But what's great about that, you want that, because in 2 years from now, when you're putting out CoffeeZilla style stuff and you're making $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month, people will look back and say, bro, I remember when you were making videos with your iPhone,
right?
Whatever, and they're like, you've come so far, and then they're ingrained, and they have an interest in your story, and then they become super fans, and they join your Patreon and everything, and they love what you're doing because this is a guy that drives a forklift, for Walmart. And he loves the fact that he watched your entire journey,
right?
And he's able to support it. It's not like he's giving you money. He feels like I'm supporting a journalist that I think is doing good work.
Yeah,
and I want to. And it only costs me $9.99 a month.
Right.
So he doesn't. He's like, it's nothing. That's a joke every month.
Right.
To help support this guy that I've been following since he was making shitty videos with his iPhone in the in the bathroom at the airport, while he was waiting for us to get on the plane to Panama. Mm-hmm. So
right.
I mean, it's so you almost want to put up shitty videos at first,
right? Yeah.
And then the great thing about YouTube is too, you can put up an intro video. Mm-hmm. When you first go to my channel, and you're not subscribed, the first thing that comes up, it goes, hey, my name is Matt Cox. And I tell you, it's 3-minute video, 5-minute video. I'm like, look, I just got released from federal prison. I just started this channel. Here's what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And I explain really, I did the best I could with that video. And then I post it. But once you subscribe, you never see that video again.
Interesting. It's only for new people.
Right. So you would start your channel and you'd say, hey, my name is Cillian. Here's what, I'm an investigative journalist, or I'm trying to be an investigative journalist, and I've written several books. I've written this. I just finished this book about Panama, and I have these. I came across I managed to acquire these secret documents, from the CIA, which actually prove that the government was working with Noriega. You kind of very briefly give a brief description. Right now, I'm about to start another book, and I really appreciate if you subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be posting twice a week, blah, 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 blah. 3-4 minutes, and then thank you very much. Please subscribe. Please tell your friends. I really need your support. And that's it.
Yeah.
And then they subscribe. They never see the video again.
Yeah.
But they know who you are.
Right.
They know what you're doing.
Huh.
They get invested in you.
Yeah.
And then they start watching the other videos. And then let's face it, 6 months later, boom. Holy shit. He just came out with the book. He finished the book.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm so proud of you, bro. You finished the book. Oh, my God. I know that time you got pulled over and you were telling that story about when the Panamanians pulled you over. Oh, I was thinking, oh, fuck, he's done. He's never going back. He'll never finish this now. But you fucking powered through it. And
yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It is.
And they will get, that's a great way to do it. And it doesn't matter that they're shitty videos at first.
Yeah.
You'll naturally get better.
Right. Yeah. Good
Mary
to know.
Shelley's doing a channel right now. She's getting better and better.
Great. Yeah. No, this is, I honestly don't know how to monetize this stuff. So that's,
Trust me, it's not through books.
Yeah.
I got like 8 books out right now.
Right.
It's not books.
Yeah.
It's not books. Although books do pay for my car payment. They pay my car payment. They pay my insurance. I'll make $1,000 or $2,000 a month on books.
It's not terrible.
No.
Yeah.
And you have to do an audio book. You'd be shocked. I'd say 30% of my book sales is through audio.
Do you provide the audio?
Audible. I don't, because I can barely read.
Okay.
You don't want to hear me read my book. It's horrific. But you, I'm sure, can read.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
serious. I know we're laughing about it, but if you heard me read, it's bad. It's bad. If I could read, I would probably be doing one of those. I'd probably have a second channel, like the one that my stepdaughter's doing, which is basically taking like a true crime story.
Yeah.
And just reading the story and just saying, in 1985, Jennifer Hudson, was walking on the beach, and I'd do that whole thing. And then I'd say, and she was never seen again. And then I'd say, you jump, and then you jump, how they tell it. You'd give it the little intro, and then you jump back to, she was raised in a small town, and I'd probably do that whole thing. But I read so horrifically, it would take me 4 hours to read a 45-minute story, and then it'd take another 6 hours to edit it. It would be that ferocious.
Well, yeah.
Is that a word? Ferocious? No. Horrific. Horrendous, or I think I kind of conflated those two.
That's one of those things.
Horrific?
We'll have the comments.
Yeah, people, and like, he won't take that out. There's, if he cared about me at all, or my dignity, he would take that out.
I'm probably just going to cut out the part where you corrected yourself.
You see? Just the editing. I'll just keep going. People are like, this guy's what's wrong with Cox? Is kind of a tard sometimes. Ridiculous. So yeah, it's definitely, yeah. You can't let the comments get you. Can't even let the comments get you. Sometimes I'll get a little bit irritated, and then I'll say, hey, bro, I'm not for everybody. I get it. Like, I can be a jerk sometimes. Like, and almost I'd say 50, 60% of the time they go, oh, bro, I didn't mean that. Like, I was just saying, I was drinking last night when I wrote that comment. And you're like,
right. Yeah.
As opposed to if I'd come back and been like, oh, fuck yourself. But
if you attack them,
if I attacked them, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not the way to go. Every once in a while, though. So the book. So the book, you said you are releasing it.
Yes. Yeah. On November 4th. So
okay.
like 5 or 6 weeks from now.
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are you taking pre-orders?
I'm going to be taking pre-orders like 2 weeks out. So mid-October, the pre-order will be available.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we holding this video? Or
No. Release this whenever you want. Yeah.
I would say
so. You're not a marketing genius then. Okay.
I'm not a marketing genius.
I was just say you should want everybody to kind of hold it.
No,
or at least make the pre-orders.
Yeah. Well, the pre-order. What do you guys usually take? Like 2 weeks to post a video?
Sometimes it's next day.
Yeah,
no,
really?
but most of the time, Like,
Yeah.
for example, that guy I was mentioning on break, like, if he can come today or tonight and everybody's still available, I'll go home, touch up his episode, and get it ready for tomorrow. But really, and realistically, 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 2 weeks is perfect because that's when the pre-order is going to be available.
Okay.
And we're trying to load up on pre-orders as much as we can. Because I'm doing a bunch of different interviews, but the media really only started yesterday. I sent you a text with that article that came out in the UK. That was the first thing to come out. So between I guess like today and November 4th, I'm just trying to have stuff come out like as frequently as possible.
What's the headlines that the articles are saying?
This is because Colby has no idea what the
I'm like, okay, yeah, what are these guys saying?
Yeah.
How Manuel Noriega's aide gave a Dublin author a trove of CIA files.
So are the files like, are they publicly available now, or were they never public?
Never publicly available.
But since you got a hold of them, they've been made available.
Yeah, I'm gonna be putting them on my website.
No, I'm saying
little
from
by
the
little.
CIA.
Oh no.
Oh, CIA is like, this is classified information.
Pretty much, yeah. Most of them are DEA documents. The CIA documents have these stamp on them that say top secret.
Right.
And they've never been made public. Like, you can't go into like whatever that like registry is, and
Yeah, you can't file a Freedom of Information Act and get them.
exactly, yeah, because they were in Noriega's possession. So it wasn't, I think they were one of ones. I'm sure like they had their own thing, but they were shredded for sure. But Noriega kept them. He kept
I
them.
was gonna say back then, there's not like there's a digital footprint of them somewhere.
No,
these are just somebody faxed something, and then once you get rid of the document, the only existing one is the one that you have.
Totally, yeah. And the CIA ones, like the really interesting CIA ones, are from like the early 1970s. Like they go from 71 or 72 to like 1980, and then when the narco trade like really kicked up a notch in the 80s with like Escobar and that stuff, the DEA came into the picture way more than the CIA, because communism was no longer like the greatest threat to America. It then became like the narco trade, which was like an even bigger threat. And so Noriega just became more important and more powerful, and the DEA started collaborating with him a lot more than the CIA did. Even though the CIA were still using him for intelligence when it came to like Fidel Castro and basically any socialist or left-leaning leader in Latin America, they just like used Noriega to get that information or to like butter them up. And because intelligence is like a business, right? Like Noriega goes to Castro and he says, "Hey, the CIA want to know about this. Can you give me enough to feed them?"
Right.
That's
So I can
exactly
get a
how it
check.
worked. Yeah. Right. So I can get the check.
Right.
Dude, exactly. Yeah.
What are you working on now?
Right now I'm working on a story about this guy, Nicky Kelly. It's an Irish story. He, in the late 1970s, him and a group of other guys in the Irish Republican Socialist Party, speak of socialists, were arrested because the Irish state thought that they robbed this train, and they associated them with the IRA. And Nicky fled the country, and while he was gone, the other guys basically got proved innocent, that they were not members of the IRA and they did not rob this train. So Nicky thought it was cool to come back. He comes back, the Irish state throws him in prison anyway. There's this thing called the Special Criminal Court in Ireland. It's like a juryless court. So it's like, you're standing before a judge and like they're not really taking your story into consideration. Like, you're already guilty. Nicky's judge actually fell asleep during the trial. It's a very famous thing in Ireland. It's called the sleeping judge. Nicky goes to like a terrorist prison. Basically, it was like a prison for like IRA members, and he goes on hunger strike for like 37 days. And the people of Ireland sort of like, he becomes like a cult, like national hero. And then in the late 80s, he finally gets like let out of prison, and it sort of just shows like an injustice in the Irish government that still kind of exists today, and a lot of it has to do with Britain's sort of like oppression of Ireland and how it still sort of lingers, even though Ireland got its independence from Britain in like 100 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I know, as like someone who doesn't know Irish history, that probably just like whoosh, but it's very much like a passion project for me. It's like an Irish story. I've known Nicky for like a few years. He's quite old now, and not necessarily on his deathbed, but I don't think I'll have that much longer to like get the story out of him.
Yeah.
And he's also in on the book, and like he wants it told. So total passion project, man. I'm gonna do this, and then I'm trying to set up another thing in Latin America. I was supposed to go to Cuba a couple of weeks ago. It fell through for reasons I can't really say. And then I've got like a major interest in what's going on in El Salvador with Bukele as well. I'd really like to speak to that guy and maybe check out that prison down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is your stance on that?
My angle?
Yeah.
I don't want to eat my words, but but like he's got the highest approval rating of like any president
Yeah, I
in the
was gonna
entire
say.
world. It's like 90%.
Yeah.
And he completely cleaned the country up.
Yeah.
You know, and Bitcoin looks like it's going to become like even more powerful and stronger worldwide as the years pass. It seems like
Bitcoin, how's that? How's that tie in?
Bukele scrapped their currency and everybody uses Bitcoin down there.
Holy shit! I did not even know
Dude,
that.
it's a crypto society, yeah, and he was the first country to do it, probably the only country to do it. But as Bitcoin becomes more expensive, El Salvador's like GDP and their wealth vastly increases. Now, that being said, like I don't know what's happening behind closed doors there, but from the outside,
I was gonna say you've got these humanitarian organizations that are complaining that he's scooping up people that are they're not getting due process, they're not getting this and that, and some of that's probably true. Like you're gonna end up you're gonna scoop up some maybe semi-innocent people. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you're covered in tattoos in El Salvador, you're a member of a gang, or at least you're making bad decisions. I don't see that you're really a decent person who's also working as a CPA and has a family, and you're a wonderful person. But I guess it's possible that some of those people got out and were living normal lives and they got scooped up. And I think ultimately, then if you have due process, eventually maybe some of those people get let go and put back into society. But in general, I don't know what. Once again, he's a strong man. He steps in and says, "Look, I'm sorry. This is going to be horrific for some people, but this is what has to be done."
yeah,
And so, I mean, I think that was the only alternative to basically just a failed state. I don't know what the other choice is.
yeah, dude, El Salvador, I think before Bukele like swept the nation clean, was the most dangerous country in the entire world.
Horrific.
Oh my
now
God.
they got tourism again.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. There's the low crime rate. Businesses are now willing to invest in the country again. I mean, hey, you guys, I appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos just like this, and please share the video. Also, if you want to check out Cillian's book, we're going to put the link in the description box. It's called The Right-Hand Man, and you can go there. You can go to Amazon, and you can pre-order the book right now. When does the book come out?
November 4th.
Book comes out on November 4th, so 4th?
4th.
November 4th, so after November 4th, you can just buy the book. Please leave a review because reviews really do help on Amazon, and it helps the Amazon algorithm push the book. So once again, thank you very much for watching. Oh, if you'd like to be sorry, I think I just spit on you. Sorry. Also, if you'd like to be a guest, we're going to leave a link also to our website. You can go there, go to the guest page, fill out a very brief application, leave a 3 to 5 minute video, and we will get back to you. Please consider joining our Patreon. It's $10 a month. It really does help Colby and I make these videos. And see ya.